Even though the vast majority of Arizonans live and work in the state's two major metro areas, more than a third of the state's land is dedicated to Arizona's original industry, agriculture. You just heard about that U of A report that shows agribusiness is still a huge part of our state's economy to the tune of almost $31 billion.
But there are other surprising things in this report, including who's doing the farming in Arizona.
Yeah.
Joining us is Julie Murphree with the Arizona Farm Bureau. And Julie, good morning. Before we get to that report, you guys just released your Thanksgiving market basket. So what are holiday meal costs this year?
We did. It's up 2.8% from the previous year. It's $53.38 for a family of 10, which, if you do the math on that, it averages about $5.33 per person, which in reality is still a good deal for our families here in Arizona.
And it's less than national. I just saw ABC News release the national numbers, up 20% over last year, costing $6.50 per person on average nationally. So we're below that. That's good news.
Yes, and it's interesting, and I think it's because we have such a competitive market. We, in general, are lower than the national. And when I say competitive market, it's the number of grocery stores that we have. And because of that competition, we've been told we're the most competitive. I think that makes you and I benefit when we go into our local grocery store.
Yeah, when we go into our local grocery store, I often see, such and such farm produced this and such farm produced that. And so let's talk about that, our agribusiness here in Arizona, because $31 billion is nothing to sneeze at. But what I also think is interesting is that the people driving this agribusiness economy are not who you might think. We lead the country in a couple of categories, women and Native American farmers, right?
Yes, we do. And it's pretty interesting, and it's something we can be very proud of. Our Navajo and Hopi are very matriarchal. So when the USDA surveys the farmers, they go and ask who's the primary farm owner. Well, the female is always identified in those two cultures. So that's one of the coolest reasons why we have the largest female. But we also have a lot of direct market female farmers from all our ethnicities, if I can say that on the radio. And it's just a really special thing to be able to report, and it makes us unique.
So I suppose there's a lot of people when they're asked, like, whose farm is this? Shima, as they say in Navajo land, right? This also provides a lot of income. How much are we talking about?
Well, it varies. If you're a direct market farmer, and depending if I'm understanding your question, so it's going to range from farm to farm, if that's what you're asking. But one of the things I want to highlight in this report is this is about sales. So it's kind of the front end. If we went even further into the food supply chain, our contribution to Arizona's economy would probably even be bigger, because we're talking more about some of the value add products related to agriculture.
And Julie, I know that farmers especially have been impacted over the past few years, not just by the drought, but by the border issues we've had going on. How is that affecting our farmers?
It has been tough, but all of this is proof of the resilience of our farmers and ranchers here in the state of Arizona. There has been significant impact, and region to region within Arizona, you can feel a heavier impact in certain areas than others. Pinal County, our farmers there have been really having a tough time of it, because they were the ones that received the biggest and most massive cuts from our Central Arizona Project surface water. So they may feel some of these hits a little bit heavier than, say, for example, our Yuma farmers that have very solid access to the surface water. So region to region in Arizona, you would be having to identify distinctions as it related to the tough times. If I'm a border rancher, I'm going to feel some of the impact of some of these border crossings. So you have to look at each section of our state, for example, a little bit differently than it's not one size fits all across the board.
All right. Thanks so much, Julie Murphree there with the Arizona Farm Bureau.
Thanks for watching Arizona's Morning News. Click to watch more from KTAR News and hit the button in the middle to subscribe.